Good afternoon. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show on 11:50 a.m. KKNW. I'm your host, Reverend Walden. It's my joy to be on the air, and that's why we who believe in freedom cannot rest till freedom comes. And so we're starting another week. We had a nice light show here in the Pacific Northwest on Saturday night. If you're from here, you don't get to see it too often. If you're from other parts of the country, you get to see it often. But here, it's not that often. So anyway, I turned my lights off and make sure I wasn't on my cell phone and none of those kind of things like they tell you to do. So anyway, welcome to the show. There's to be a podcast after this, so you can always check us out. I want to bring on Mr. Rye here. He has lots of updates. This is a great month to know what's going on, and I think he has Mr. Hayward. Hayward is on. Evans is on the phone too, also on the line. So welcome to Mother's Justice Show here on a Monday in Seattle, Pacific Northwest.
This is a very special day in Chicago.
Okay.
Last month, nobody would have thought that it was Kamala Harris was going to be the nominee for the Democratic ticket for president. And the enthusiasm is just going off the charts. So I don't believe the polls when I see them. They say it's real tight. Okay, we should play it like she's an underdog, but we know the enthusiasm is there. So I just had to give a shout out. My daughter Angela is back in Chicago for the convention, and she'll be doing a podcast from there. So yes,
that's
I want to make sure people knew that as well. But next Wednesday is the 61st anniversary of the 1963 March on Washington, D.C. for jobs and freedom. Bayard Rustin, A. Philip Randolph, Dorothy Height, and I think Fannie Lou Hamer had a hand in it, and so did quite a few other sisters. But the 61st anniversary of the March on Washington, D.C. for jobs and freedom, and here we are 61 years later, we got to fight for the same thing. And so I'm going to go to I'm co-convener of the MLK, Martin Luther King Commemoration Continuation Committee, and Hayward Evans is the other co-convener. And so I'm going to turn it over to Hayward now to talk about what we got coming up on Wednesday, beginning at Holgate Street Church of Christ at 5 p.m. on Wednesday the 28th, that actual 61st anniversary of that March on Washington, where Dr. King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech after he was prodded by Mahalia Jackson. Martin, go off script and tell him about the dream. And that was the best thing that she ever done, and she don't get enough credit for pushing him out there. So Hayward, go right ahead.
Oh, thank you, Eddie. And Reverend Walden, thank you for having me on your show.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Well, everybody should really be letting that sink in. 61 years since the March on Washington, August 28, 1963. We really, really need to take a clear look at ourselves, I would think, Eddie, because with Project 2025 is very real. Some of these folks, the Heritage Foundation, and a lot of these conservative elements out there have basically said, black folks, you are right. The Supreme Court enforces it when they close down affirmative action. This is a very, very serious time. Now, our event, again, is going to be next Wednesday, August 28th, at Holgate Street Church of Christ. That's 2600 Holgate Street Way. That's right across the street from Martin Luther King Park, just 2 blocks north of Martin Luther King Park or Martin Luther King Way. The event starts at 5 o'clock, between 5 and 6:30, with a free dinner. And if anybody's ever came to a Martin Luther King Commemoration Committee event, the food is off the chain. As at all of our events, if you've been there, we have Ezo's Chicken, but we also have Catfish Corner. And let me tell you, the greens are excellent. The catfish is excellent. The coleslaw is excellent. The beans are excellent. The food is great. So please, and it's all free. You're welcome to come out, eat, and it's all free between 5 and 6. Because I know people are getting off work now. You might be hungry. Or if you have your children, please bring your children down. You're all welcome to eat. But between 5 and 6:30, we'll be serving dinner. At 6:30, the program begins, and it's an award ceremony. We're giving out 2 young people awards, one going to Chardonnay Beaver, who's the author of a book just recently, and Chandler Williams, who's a songwriter, singer. They're going to be getting their their Youth Award, Martin Luther King Commemoration Committee Young Leadership Awards. And we also, Eddie, can you help me? Who else will be giving the award to?
Bishop Gary L. Tyson. I think he's chair or president of the General Baptist Convention of the Northwest. I think it involves like 40 churches. And also Elton Mason, who has been one of the leaders in trying to get justice for the Black truckers and the Black contractors. Elton Mason, people might remember his late father, J.D. Mason, who then back in those days was president of the Independent Black Truckers and Excavators. And then Claude Burpick from King County Labor had a recommendation. And Hayward, I don't have the guy's name right now. We got to have it to put it on the plaque though.
Yeah,
the president of MLK Labor.
Yeah, Lombardi, his last name, I believe.
No, Lambro,
that's it, Lambro.
Yeah, Thomas Lambro. Yeah, I had it right next to me because I talked to Claude earlier to make sure we had his name correct. And it's the Martin Luther King County Labor Council. We got to think about as far up here as we are, and with so many things looking like Mississippi doing this in some areas of life in Washington State for Black folks. We have the only municipality in the country named for Dr. King. And this is Martin Luther King Jr. County. But the most important thing is that, Hayward, we're going to be asking the NAACP to also have voter registration at the event. And then some people ask me, well, is it okay if we bring some Harris signs? I said, as far as I'm concerned, so you're free to do whatever you want to, as long as within the violation, you're not violating the law and not violating the principles of the church. So I don't think Minister Jimmy Hurd will have a problem with any
in Hogan Church. We're looking
Harris
at
wall signs in the building.
And
what did you say, Hayward? I thought Hayward said something.
Yeah, right across the weather.
Oh, there he is.
At Martin Luther King Park. And so I wanted to shout out to the Parks Department.
Hey, when you were off, we couldn't hear the first part of your comments.
Hello?
Okay, I said we couldn't hear the first part of your last comment. All we heard was Martin Luther King Park. That's all we heard. Well, apparently he's out.
So it's going to be a rally at the park before you go over to the church?
Well, it's going to be depending on the weather. Because I spent the first 10 years of my life in Shreveport, Louisiana. So last night also gave me some memories. Well, Saturday night gave me some memories of what it was like to be down south. But if the weather permits, after we have the meal, we will walk down to the Martin Luther King Park. It'll depend. We'll know early enough in the day whether or not it looks like it's going to rain. We're not going to do that.
Okay.
And, the other thing, if we do, we're going to have to make sure that we have extra chairs, for people as well, which we've done. We've had a real good working relationship with the Seattle Park Department, and Christopher Williams is the superintendent of the Seattle Park. As a matter of fact, he was a recipient of an award from MLKCC, which is Martin Luther King Commemoration Committee, a year or so ago. So, but anyway, the flyers. I went out to quite a few folks. The theme is we're not going back. No Jim Crow. No Project 2025, and reparations now. That's the theme of the event for this year. And
like the mother's the sponsor. Are we a sponsor on there also? Can we get our name on the flyer? Is it too late?
Well, the flyer is just out, but no, we can always include mothers on that. No problem.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
But another thing too is that the speaker is going to be Reverend Dr. Leslie Braxton, pastor of New Beginning Christian Fellowship, and on the 31st of this last month, which was about 3 weeks ago on Wednesday, hosted a town hall meeting.
Yes,
on Project 2025 that involved Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland, Congressman Adam Smith. Premelo Jayapal came through us because she was down speaking at Sheila Jackson Lee's funeral service. So she did a virtual comment for us. And then also, there's on the flyers a picture of my daughter, Angela, and her mother, Andrea. And this was the 20-year anniversary. Angela was 3 years, 10 months old, holding up Make Martin Luther King's birthday a national holiday. That was August 28, 1983. Then on November 2nd, 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed the first King holiday bill that didn't take effect till the third Monday in January of 86.
Right.
And 4 weeks after Ronald Reagan signed that, the Washington State Supreme Court ruled the city of Seattle had authority to change the name of Empire Way to Martin Luther King Jr. Way.
Wow.
So all that happened in 83, and it all happened after this 3-year-old, 10-month-old child here with her mother holding up a sign about making it a holiday, and nobody knew, because the last thing people were saying, man, there's no way Ronald Reagan's going to do it. But Loretta Scott King went all out. She sat in the front row at the Republican convention. She did what she had to do to get that done. So I'm very pleased that we have that. But that's just so, that's really history. Here's 3 years, 10 months with a sign about making Dr. King's birthday be a national holiday. And then that was in August 28th, November 2nd, the bill was signed. And then 4 weeks later, the states, because we had to go to court to change the name of the
state. That's right. Yeah.
There was all kind of haters out there.
Right.
They even had a couple of Negroes to try to have front for them, but that didn't work either. But
I think an important thing that we need to go back to remember on for the organizing for the March on Washington, it was no social media. It was all done by phone calls and reaching out or telegrams, and all the buses that rolled into DC in 1963 was owned by Black busing companies. And it was no public accommodation there, but a few, and a lot of people who did stay, they stayed in private homes. So we need to understand that what we can do without the social media. It's been done before, almost 250,000 people there. I graduated in June 63, was in Montgomery, Alabama, watching it on the television. And of course, they didn't do no reruns then. You just had to see it at that time.
That's right.
You didn't get to see it. You didn't get to see it no more. You saw it in Ebony and in Jet, Pittsburgh Courier, and the Chicago Fender. The black papers still they did it, but you got to see that one time, and all those people there, and the power of organizing, and that's the power that we need now. We stopped organizing this way when people got affirmative action, good jobs. And we did. We had to take our full responsibility. The other people took a page out of our page, and they never went home. This is the longest we've gone in America, so not organizing. And this is what happens when you stop organizing. See, that's what Marcus Garvey said. People who organize need to organize all the time for their self-protection and their freedom. We never stop, see.
Well, if we don't, like I said, our theme is we're not going back. No Jim Crow, no Project 2025, and reparations now. And there is a draft executive order that's in the hands of Pat Sullivan, who is Governor Jay Inslee's executive director of the Legislative Affairs Department. And he had a copy and he didn't share it with anyone, but he asked people about their opinion about reparations without sharing the information with them. And then Jesse Weinberg did an outstanding job. He and Shalice Seacrest and Winona Hollins-Haig met with this Pat Sullivan guy. And during that meeting, it was determined he had never read the executive order. And then Quintard Taylor stepped up. Dr. Quintard Taylor gets to provide some additional information. There was an underground railroad in Puget Sound.
Wow.
One of the most famous cases was a guy by the name of, he's my good friend today, but he's a different Charles Mitchell, who was a slave that was brought back to the Washington Territory from Maryland. And he got on a steamboat and went to Canada. And his owners tried to get the Canadians to return him. And they said, he's in Canada now, and we're not going to recognize slave laws in Canada. So Charles Mitchell was able to stay in Canada. But people would say, Washington State had why reparation? Why Washington, like every other state, benefited from slavery, and there was an underground railroad in Puget Sound.
Well, I tell you one thing. Like I said earlier, and I think this needs to be repeated often, is that we're here because we stopped organizing.
Yeah,
and we have to take responsibility. We're good. We're doing it now. But the last 25, 30 years, we were not organized. And that's why these people are ahead of us. They never organized in America the way they're organizing now. And we understand where we are now. Yeah. And let's go for it. And I think it's wonderful,
a certain segment of society just maintain the same status quo of racial discrimination, specifically against African Americans.
Well, I understand that, but we always had something going on all the time, too. Yeah. I mean, and it's okay for us to say, yeah, we're doing this now, and we're doing it in a mighty way, and it's good. I'm just saying that, it is good.
The sad thing is that people have been co-opted to be against us, like Stephen Miller and Ed Bloom.
But they're always against us.
Hundreds of lawsuits to keep Black students, African American students out of colleges, and now they're filing against programs where Black folks get to get benefits. And we the ones been here 400 years. As a matter of fact, helped some of their ancestors during World War II. So,
but see, we've been here before. See, exactly. I mean, that's what and 61 years ago we were here. I mean, we were. That's why you had the March on Washington asking for something. So we've been here before. We have what it takes to get out of this. That's all I'm saying. Is that we have what it takes.
Oh, yeah. But we're just not going to quit. Hayward's back. I think you might have another guest.
Yeah, but I want you to announce what's happening on the 28th again. You'll have another opportunity next Monday, but so I want you to announce what's happening so people can get ready to come out like they did 61 years ago.
And that's Holgate Street Church, 2600 Holgate Street Way. Right off of Martin Luther King Way, just 2 blocks north of Martin Luther King Jr. Park, 5 to 6:30, a great dinner, all free. 6:30, we're going to march across the street to Martin Luther King Park, weather permitting, and we're going to have the rally there. Remember now, it's no Jim Crow. Everybody remembers, hopefully you people remember Jim Crow.
Well, I do. I grew up in it, but a lot of people don't. But I remember.
Bless your heart. And we got to make sure they understand, because this is like a second wave of Jim Crow right now. And that's why we say no on Project 2025. What they want to do is take Black folk back to 1955. And reparations now. The state committee of the Democratic Party passed a resolution to have governor sign it to establish a committee, and has it. But I want to thank you, Reverend. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.
See you next Wednesday. Yes. And this is absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Over 1,000 delegates at the Washington State Democratic Convention on June 23rd, and most of them were white from all across the state. And the governor's office is shaking it off like nothing has ever happened, because it's for us.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is where we get our most power, at this when it's for us, and how we know how to do this. So let's just do it. We know how to do this. We're not a novice. We've been doing this ever since they brought us here. We've been fighting for freedom. So we're not novices. Let's rock. All right. Thank you for being my guest. All right, then. See you next week, because you come on with another update, because it's next Wednesday. Thank you so much, Mr. Rye and Mr. Evans, for coming on Mother's Justice Show.
Thank you very much for having us.
You're welcome. Hey, we're going to take a break, and I come on with my next guest, Ms. Vega. All right, you listen to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW. I'm your host, Reverend Walden. It's my joy to be on there. Thank you.
The Mother's Justice Show is brought to you by H.G. Walden and the Virtues Healing Circles. Join us for Wisdom and Wellness with Reverend Walden, a monthly virtual and in-person healing circle that focuses on community healing and growth. Learn more at virtueshealing.com. That's virtueshealing.com. Also, be sure to join our healing group on Facebook. Again, visit us at virtueshealing.com today.
Did you know that with certain designs and construction techniques, you can completely eliminate the cost of heating and cooling your home each month? For some homeowners, that can represent a savings of $5,000 to $10,000 a year with no loss in comfort. Want to learn more? Be sure and listen to Designing and Building Your Dream Home with your host, KT, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. right here on 1150 KKNW.
Find our app in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and take us with you wherever you go. Alternative Talk AM 1150.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW. I'm your host, Reverend Walden. It's my joy to be on the air. I love radio. I grew up with it. So it's always, I love radio. That's all I can say. My grandmother didn't believe in televisions in her house.
Mm-hmm.
I would bring in my next guest. She's not a stranger here. Sometimes she's in Puerto Rico, but this time she's in stateside. She's in Seattle, but going to give us some information about what's happening in Puerto Rico. And I like the way you say it. You say Puerto Rico. you say it like a real Puerto Rican.
Right, Puerto Rico. But you're getting there, getting close.
I once on your page you had something about Blackness and what it meant to be Puerto Rican and Black, and I had never heard that before. And I think that's how we kind of like connected even more, because I grew up in Florida with a lot of Puerto Ricans when I went to school, and they went to school with us as Negroes. See, and so when I read that statement, I said, "Oh, that's interesting." So I always liked that statement because. We know that all of us in the diaspora got here because of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And there was other people on these islands. And I like in Haiti, I think the smallpox took out that population. And so yeah, it was always people here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
exactly.
Yeah, well, welcome to Mother's Justice Show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's always nice to be on here with you, and I get to see you now. So this is wonderful.
Oh, yes. And I get to see you.
The wonders of technology.
Oh, yeah, it is. And and behind all of that is something black that helps to go. Something that they,
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, and how's your mother?
She's well. She's
Okay.
upstairs, just being busy. We just had our carpets cleaned. They just finished just in time for me to get on Zoom because it was so noisy. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad they finished.
Oh, yeah.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we always talk about storms and hurricanes. A lot of that. And just by nature of being in the Caribbean and being a small island, we're always going to be affected. Every year it's hurricane season, and every year we have many scares. Sometimes we get hit, and sometimes it misses us, which is wonderful. But that's where we are again. We just had another tropical storm.
Yeah, not a hurricane. I called you because I thought I hardly put the TV on, and I said, "Oh, Puerto Rico, let me call and see what's going on," because I remember before the previous president, I didn't, actually neglected Puerto Rico in such a bad way. So I just was wondering what was going on, and you educated me. I'm from Florida, so I'm familiar with hurricanes, not too much tropical storms, but hurricanes when they come that way.
Right, because by the time they get to Florida, they're already in full force. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
And this time we had was a tropical storm. It wasn't yet a hurricane. So it's not as, the winds are not as fierce. That's the first thing. But we still had lots of rain and lots of floods. And we did have winds of over 60 miles per hour. And some people even lost their entire harvest, depending on where they are located. We have the Big Island, which is the one that we call, that is usually known as Puerto Rico. When we talk about Puerto Rico, the country, right? They usually say it's a country, it's an island country, but actually we're not. We're an archipelago. And we have the large island is the native name is Boriquen, and the official name is Puerto Rico. So that's the Big Island. And then we have other islands, but the two other small islands that are populated are Culebra and Vieques. You may remember Vieques because for many, many decades, we struggled and protested to get the Navy out of Vieques, the Marines, and they finally left, and they left their big mess there. But Vieques now has become sort of a treasure for tourists and people that cater to tourists. So now property in Vieques is going up, and all of the cute restaurants and different things are happening, but it doesn't stop the fact that that they still left all of that waste
Right.
on the island that is hazardous to people's health, that many of the people, especially the older people, are sickly, and most of the population had cancer.
Right.
And so when things happen like this, where we have the tropical storm going right over the small islands, it does cause a lot of problems, because for one, people are not as prepared in terms of gadgets and appliances and everything that we can have now to be prepared, just because of the economic situation, but also because they're not connected to the big island.
Right. Okay.
And the transportation system that they have is not as reliable, even though that's changing real quick so that tourists can have their jump in there.
I think tourists always come in and either bring progressive progress, or progress that's not progressive, but suited for them, but not for the island people.
Right. It's not for everyone. And so it's not that it's not for us, it's just we're not the priority.
That's right. You're right. You're not the priority.
Accessibility is not a priority in terms of the people that are from there.
How far are the islands apart? How many miles are they apart?
From PR?
Big island.
I don't know, but it's kind of like you would say a ferry boat ride away.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Might be like Vashon, which is really quick. From Seattle, Vashon is one of the quickest runs if you're going to Vashon.
I've never been to the small islands, unfortunately, and I'm on the other side of the island.
Okay.
Right, so these islands are more closer to the East Coast, like the north of the island, and I live on the West Coast.
Okay.
That's where my family's from, and so I don't know that much about the East Coast in terms of having been there.
Okay.
Experienced it myself, but that's where this tropical storm impacted the most, was in those islands, Culebra and Vieques. And Culebra has become it's become a hub of very rich families have bought property there, and so we have a lot of we have the extremes, right, of people that are wealthy and are able to be better prepared for these kinds of weather conditions, and then we have the people that are very poor, and they live in extreme conditions. And just to throw, I always throw this in about colonization and why Puerto Rico is a colony, and it's not just a commonwealth. It's a colony because the relationship between an empire and a colony is one of advantage and mostly for profit. And both of these islands, Vieques and Culebra, which are, they actually house some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. But they were used for military purposes. And in Vieques, the community resisted and refused to leave the island. But in Culebra, they actually succeeded at getting most of the residents out of the island.
Wow.
And they removed them from Culebra, and they didn't move them to the big island. They moved them to another island in the Caribbean.
Oh,
so
that's not even Puerto Rico.
They uprooted and displaced.
Yeah.
And
and
so
that's trauma is the buzzword today. That's trauma. Yeah.
And most Puerto Ricans don't even know that. So they took us and they uprooted us. And so that the population from Culebra has a closer relationship with the rest of the Caribbean nations than people from the Big Island. They have more of a Caribbean identity.
I see.
Than the rest of us because of that situation. And because it's also closer for people from other islands to go there in fishing boats and that. So there's more, they had more connection, more of an exchange.
Wow.
But in terms of this tropical storm, in some areas, it did more damage than the big hurricane, only because the flooding. We had such intense flooding in some areas that people were not expecting. We just had a lot of rain, and the rain continued even after the storm left the island. It was rain, 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 and so we had a lot of flood, and that we felt that all the way to the West Coast.
Okay.
So we weren't anticipating that anything was going to happen for us on the West Coast. But what ended up happening was just the floods and the rivers, just, the floods of the rivers, the
right, all the tributaries
flood.
and all
all of that coming down at once. And so that's what people are still dealing with in terms of the aftermath.
Now, do you have small mountains there? I mean, hills and stuff.
We have mountains,
come down
and
from
that's where people lost most of the harvest in the mountains.
Okay.
I actually come from a coastal family, right? I'm from the coast. And so we have
closer to the fish.
Yeah, we have like coast culture, and then we have mountain culture.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
the
so
water
Mom
would be
and
coming
I
down from the water. The water would come down from the mountains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? Mom and I got caught in one of those. What do they call those? Those flash flood. We got caught in a flash flood because it had not rained on the coast, but it had rained heavy in the mountains.
Yes.
And so 3 rivers came down really fast. And all of a sudden, Mom and I found ourselves in a sea of water.
Wow.
In the dark. And every time, one of those big trucks that can actually make it through there would drive by, our little car would move like a little rowboat. It's just like,
wow.
Yeah. And so then water started coming in our car, and I took this cup and started throwing it out the window. But luckily, someone came by and said, I am just not comfortable with leaving you guys here because we're supposed to wait. We were waiting for a tow truck that was never going to come because the flood was so much. So the guy pushed us with his big truck and got us out of the water.
Wow.
It was so scary because it comes down so suddenly, and it wasn't raining,
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't even raining in our area. So yeah, it is really scary, and it can get really dangerous.
Yes.
It'll take your car, the
It
car.
don't take but a little bit of water for the car to flood, for it to float and drown. And that's why they say, don't drive through, don't drown, turn around. That's that theme song.
Exactly.
Because and people underestimate it. So hey, you had your little experience there.
Oh my goodness, yes. And that happens to me all the time, and it happens to many of us who haven't grown up on our island. And so people that live there, they know what roads to avoid, and they kind of know what happens if it's raining so hard in the mountains and that kind of stuff. But those of us who are newcomers, we don't know the city folks,
Oh yeah, growing up in the city, there's a big difference, and I just contrasting because I think tonight is a full moon, and growing up in the South and in Florida, of course, where I grew up at, the moon and the stars was significant. I mean, they light the night up. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't get this in the city, but there's a significant reason why you have a moon.
Exactly, I was very super grateful. I was so grateful to have a moon and stars because we also, this brings us to this storm, because we don't have electricity, right? And at that time when this happened to my mom, we were having a lot of irregularities with the electrical service. So there wasn't, all of a sudden it got dark, the sun went down and it got dark and there were no lights.
Wow.
Right. So the town had no light, no electricity at that point. So everything was very dark. And what helped us was the moon and the
I remember that because my grandmother and I, we would be coming from my neighbor's house across the street, but you can see your shadow. Mm-hmm. In the moonlight, you can see your shadow. You can see stars, and unfortunately for us who live in the city, it's just not that same, and it's a beautiful thing to see the moonlight
Right.
and the stars and stuff like that. Because when my son drove my granddaughter to Tuskegee with her horse, and they went on all those back roads of Mississippi, and he told her, he said, never travel these roads unless it's a full moon.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's pitch dark after otherwise. I mean, so
Wow.
creator. I mean, so you think about creation and and all of that, and you think about what creator did, and this fabulous world that we didn't create, that we get to inhabit. It's amazing.
Well, it takes you have to adjust to it.
Mm-hmm.
When you come from a city and you're not used to that, using that as a real light. That's your light. And then your eyes have to adjust to it. And
right.
Next thing you know, after a while, if you're making an effort, you can really see a lot.
You can. Yeah. I grew up that way, and because we grew up in segregation, and European Americans might have had street lights, but we didn't have a street light on every corner, and our corner did not have a street light. It was like 2 or 3 blocks away from us where it was a street light. So it was kind of dark going across the streets at night. And I remember that as a child. And that's why I would never watch scary movies at night, because we didn't have a television. I had to walk across the street.
Oh, I know.
So I would not watch any scary movies at all.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So that's okay. So anyway, I'm always interested when you come on, because you always have so much to share. I mean, we were here one time about the school that you were involved with here in Seattle, that you were involved with, and so you're not a stranger. So I always learn something when you hear about what you're doing in the organizing that you do, to build community, because it's so important. And that's what I was trying to tell Mr. Vidam. It's so important right now about organizing, and we did stop organizing. I mean, I'm not going to say everybody, but sometimes the people who got the good jobs stop organizing because they had something to lose, and us outside the door didn't have no access in a lot of ways. And so I'm not surprised where we are, because we dropped the ball, and we have to take our full responsibility for that. And then see how we're going to get out of this and what we're going to do. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you brought this up, because I feel like we're about to go into that zone again if we're not careful.
Right.
Because of the way that elections are being managed right now.
Right.
And what ended up happening is that resistance basically got neutralized.
Right.
For a long time, because we don't know how to deal with holding government accountable,
right,
that we consider our ally. And I think that, I when Obama won the election as a presidential candidate, I remember we had a community gathering, and you were there, and we talked about, this is wonderful, and how it was, in what ways was it wonderful, and where do we go from here, right? And we did that twice, and people were just too elated to really give it.
That's right. To understand. That's right, and to ask for what's hard. I mean, people just be glad to be in the room, and they don't ask for what's hard. 61 years ago, we weren't in the room. I mean, I never. I graduated in 63, so we were never in the room. So this is a new experience, being in the room. And
right. Well, here we go. We're going back for a repeat, I think.
Right. But I believe
a new opportunity. And
a new opportunity. I believe that too. Yeah.
It gives us an opportunity to not go in there with our eyes closed, and to put our demands up front, rather than being unconditional about our support.
That's right. That's right.
If you put some demands up front, and you then are able to use that to hold accountable, then that, I think, would work.
I do too.
We'd have to see it.
but also I think on some levels that we could be more sophisticated. I mean, if we have people who really want to tell the truth, because this is truth-telling time. And we have saved democracy more than once. We fought in World War I, World War II, and all the wars, Korean War, and all of these things, and to bring democracy back to America and then the world, and then the racism has never gone away. It just went. All 45 did was just took the top off the genie. I mean, and just let it come out full place, but it's never gone away. I mean, and those type of things. I think it's just truth-telling time that we've come this far, but we have done a lot for America. I mean, to tell the truth, and we have to own that piece and not back down.
Use this as an opportunity to push forward, instead of becoming and being neutralized.
That's right.
For another 4 or 8 years.
That's right.
Because we're afraid to criticize, and we
that's
want to.
That's right. That's right.
Oppose our own, and even though it's not to our advantage, be patient. Other people did us better. I mean, did us worse. No. And all of that is valid. However, this is an opportunity. That's right. Make it an opportunity in every way possible. For us, it's a very different situation in terms of Puerto Rico.
Right.
Because both parties have been responsible for holding up colonialism in our country.
And that's what they do well. We're gonna have about 2 more minutes.
Yeah, they both have, and so. We can't ever be fully comfortable or happy to have either one in a position of imposing, because remember, we have no self-government. They say we have self-government, but we don't have self-government. What we have is self-administration, right?
That's right.
But the government comes from Washington, D.C. and Congress, and we don't get to have representation or voice there.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we're not in an advantageous position, and with either candidate. One can be worse than the other. And Trump went to our land and insulted us in our face when we had
really and truly. I mean, laughed about it, and people thought it was a great idea. We're gonna have about 2 more minutes here, and then we'll have to close up the segment. So
okay.
No, we got 2 more minutes. We got a few more minutes.
Okay. Yeah, and so somebody said, well, move to the U.S. and then you can vote. That was Miss Hillary Clinton. And so the price for us to vote in the United States is that we have to live in exile. We have to reside in exile in order to vote. And of course, that isn't fair or just. No. But I just want to point out that, are we closing for good? Are we leaving?
In a few minutes. This is the end of this segment, but you got a few more minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of this tropical storm, and our biggest problem right now is with electricity. So over a third of the island still does not have electricity. And we have been having problems with electricity even before this storm. This just makes it worse.
Right.
And we have a company that they went private with electricity, and the company is Luma, and we're trying to get rid of it. And the federal government and the justices are denying us the opportunity to do that.
Wow.
So we're really trying hard to get a new company, but that's another struggle. Just putting that out there. So people are having difficulties with electricity. Lots of people went solar since the last hurricane. People that could afford it and were able to do that. And it's gotten to a place where we just feel we're on our own with that. But we need people's support and advocacy, because people in the U.S. do get to vote and do get.
That's right. Yeah. And, one last question: do you get taxed? Also, do you have to pay taxes like you do when we're in segregation? You get taxed, but your tax money goes to help somebody else.
Well, we're actually a tax shelter, so that's why.
So people come up there and put their money on. Okay.
Yeah. And then we don't pay, I believe it's income tax, U.S. income tax, but we pay other types of taxes.
So it's okay.
So,
all right. Yeah. So anyway, it's still an unequal situation, and I just appreciate you always coming on and telling us about it and giving us some education. And like you said, we will be wise this year. I mean, this time, because we don't have no other choice but to wake up with wisdom. Yeah. All right. Well, I thank you for coming on, Ms. Vega, to give us an update and from your country, I mean, and your island, and it's always beautiful to have you on. And where are you from again? What's the name of that place? Where are you from again?
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Puerto Rico. You say it so beautifully.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much for coming on, and I hope
you
you
for
enjoyed
inviting
being on
me.
my show. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
You listen to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW. I'm your host from Walden. We'll be right back. Thank you.
The Mother's Justice Show is brought to you by H.G. Walden and the Virtues Healing Circles. Join us for Wisdom and Wellness with Reverend Walden, a monthly virtual and in-person healing circle that focuses on community healing and growth. Learn more at virtueshealing.com. That's virtueshealing.com. Also, be sure to join our healing group on Facebook. Again, visit us at virtueshealing.com today.
Hi, I'm Jenny Garth, and I am a lifelong animal lover. I grew up on a farm in Illinois and spent my life caring for horses and animals of all shapes and sizes. Your life can be forever changed too by adopting a shelter pet. It's not only the joy your new pet experiences when they find a loving home, but also the happiness you'll get from welcoming them into your life. The heroes at American Humane have been helping animals for more than 140 years. You can learn more at americanhumane.org.
Wondering what's on next on Alternative Talk 1150? Check out 1150kknw.com.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW. It's my host. It's my joy to be on the air. I just love radio. You can catch us on a podcast too after this show. So hey, I want to just talk a little bit about my grandfather. But before I want to do that, I just want to tell you, please mark your calendar for Mother's Justice Breakfast 11. It's going to be the first week in November. It's going to be November 7th, the Royal Escort Club in the mornings. It's the breakfast, y'all. All right. Also, I want to give a shout out for now to Lonnie Nelson. She passed away in 2014. She was with Mothers for 22 years. She was a great organizer for Mothers and a lot of organizations. And yesterday was my daughter-in-law's birthday, Tasha Henry, and my grandson flew in to surprise her. And so she's a wonderful person. She's a Acacia and Omi Salisbury mother, and a lovely human being. August 16th was a special day for me. It was my grandfather's going home day. My grandfather passed in the spirit in August 16th, 1955, when I was 9 years old. And my grandfather, absolutely, he had retired, of course, when I was born, but he had worked for the Atlantic coastline. He was a red cap for the Atlantic coastline, and I need to talk about being working on the railroad. But what my grandfather did for me is that he taught me in those days they called it timetables. So so he taught me how to multiply, and also he just liked to give me history lessons. And he just really loved his granddaughter. And I always said that I was the apple of his eye, because he just was my first experience with unconditional love was James Garfield Walden. He was born in the late 1800s, and so was my grandmother. So my grandparents who raised me came from another, they were born after slavery, and they married in the 1920s, early 1920s, and I only had one address all of my life, 1100 Pecan Avenue. I went to Goldsboro Elementary School. And Goldsboro was one of the oldest Black townships in America, and it was disbanded in the 1920s. But the people fought to keep Goldsboro to try to get it back, but they lost that battle. But I grew up in segregation. Mr. Ryan, us were talking about the March on Washington earlier, and all my teachers, like I said before, was African American. But my grandfather would encourage me every day to write up my tablet when I was in kindergarten. So he always buy me another one. And the thing that I remember the most about my grandfather was I would always ask him, I said, Granddaddy, do you love me? And he said, yeah, grandbaby, I love you. And I said, well, Granddaddy, if you love me, you'll give me a penny. And he always gave me a nickel, a dime, and almost a nickel. And so he was my first teacher of prosperity. You can always ask for more. You can always ask, we don't have to ask for just a little, because the universe is plentiful. There's always something here for us. And sometimes we don't believe that, and we just be asking for just a little, but the universe is infinite good, and it's good everywhere. And sometimes we've been programmed not to see that good. And so my granddaddy, he always was seeing the good in me and telling me all the good stories. And he told me about America and what it was like, and all those kinds of things. And on that morning, when my grandfather was passing away, he knew he was dying. I've had a couple of cousins in my family who knew they were dying, and they could tell you the time that they were going to die. So my grandfather wanted me to get up that morning, and my grandfather, he kept telling me, go get my grandbaby, go get my grandbaby. I wake her up and tell her that, Granddaddy, I'm dying today. And my grandmother said, oh, Jim, don't say that. She called him Jim. And my aunt, his daughter was named Audrey. I don't know why they called her that. The name was Olga, but I don't know how my grandmother got that name. But nobody could call that name for her, so they called her Audrey. So she went to work anyway. And so I tell people, I camp at the Marriott because I grew up, it's called camping in those days. We had outdoor facilities in those days, and we didn't have hot and cold. We didn't have hot water yet in our house. Everybody had cold water. They were putting hot water in, but and so he had to go out to use the facilities, and he asked my grandmother to help him out, and he did. And when he came back in, I came back, and he sat on the steps, and he rested on the steps, and I was there. And just before noon, he just kind of collapsed in my grandmother's arms on the steps, and he died in her arms just before noon on August 16, 1965. And so he knew that he was passing, and he wanted to see his apple of his eye. He wanted to see his grandbaby that he loved so much. And and so I was there for him to give me a hug before he went outside to use the facility. And he never did get to come back inside because he died on the back steps in my grandmother's arm. So, it's like, I think everybody should have an experience of unconditional love. It shapes your life in a different way. When you can have somebody just know that you're the apple of the eye. And I had that experience, and it has carried me a lifetime. A lifetime that I've had that experience. And I offer that because I think it's just necessary for people to feel beautiful, to understand that life can be good, even when people think you're not experiencing a good life. Because by other people's standard, our standards were substandard. But boy, the gift he gave me is priceless. It was called unconditional love, and I cherish that all the days of my life. I really do. So thank you for listening to the Mother's Justice Show at 11:50 a.m. And I want to bless you today with beauty. May you find beauty wherever you go. May the beauty of the flowers or the trees or whatever you find beauty today. And this is Reverend Walden on 11:50 a.m. KKNW. I'm your host, Reverend Walden. I enjoyed the day. I hope you did too. Catch us on the podcast. Talk to you next week. Peace to you.